So sometimes I like to talk about the sedimentary layers that we're actually moving through to get back down to that most innate, inherent truth of our worthiness, our inherent worthiness, not the misperception of an inherent truth that we are actually shame itself. So we go down through these sedimentary layers, and some of those are emotions that we didn't even know were there. We didn't even realize we had been storing certain emotions. And sometimes coming down through these sedimentary layers, we can kind of chart the familiarity of it if we've gone away from ourselves, i.e., self abandonment, enough times into the cycles of food or self harm, and we've returned enough times. We kind of have a familiar sense of the topsoil, the first few layers of coming back home. For me, when I was coming back home after a period of an escalation or a binge or a downward spiral, whatever it was that I was doing, when I was coming back home, the first few layers were things like apprehension. What emotions would I have to feel? What had I been like abating, oppressing, suppressing? What was I going to have to feel that I wouldn't know how to or I wouldn't want to? So often my first layer was apprehension. And then coming down a little ways, there would be this feeling of like relief, like I was actually connecting back to the me that is worthy of being me, the me that is actually likable and intelligent and capable. And then I could go down a little further and I would touch this kind of sadness, like, yeah, and I just spent these days or weeks or months of, abusing myself, harming myself, berating myself. And so the layers that we might go through, those first few could be familiar, because then what can happen is we don't know how to go deeper to really trust that inner worthiness. We may feel relief after yoga practice for an hour or two or a couple of days, but we might find that the overwhelming urge to go back to the spiral with food or self-hatred or self-criticism is bigger. It's more reflexive. It takes over. And so when we come to a yoga practice now, and we're going to go through these sedimentary layers to that deeper discovery, let's along the way make a specific effort for the body memory of knowing that this is true. So good morning. Welcome for yoga practice. Let's take a few moments to sit quietly together. We'll settle in, and then we're going to do a practice this morning that will include 2 yoga blocks and also a foam roller. This is a 1/3 length foam roller because we cut them into pieces for shorter. It makes it easier to travel with, but you can use a full length foam roller if that's what you have. Don't cut your roller just for the purpose of making it this size for the class. So that's a foam roller. These are 2 blocks, and I'm sitting on a blanket. And those are some things that might help you with your practice this morning. Go ahead and rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes and appreciate yourself for arriving here, for seeking out yoga practice for your well-being. This is a time of self-care and self-nurturance. So let's breathe that in. And as you breathe in, this is a time for self-care and self-nurturance. Upon breathing that in, you're also stimulating the parts of you that know that you are worthy of this self-care. You are worthy of the vitality that wants to come through you. That vitality that does not want to be suppressed by food or other activities that tend to push that vitality down. Now, as you breathe that in, even when you're touching the place that knows you're truly worthy, you may be passing through some layers of emotions, like the sadness that we sometimes forget that we're worthy. You might pass through the emotion of disappointment if you've been away from your practice or you have not been doing so well with your self-care. You might also pass through the emotion as if you were going down through a little archaeological dig. As you come down to touch that place of worthiness, you may also touch into the excitement that you could believe this to be true. That you're showing up today for a commitment that helps you to know this inherent truth. You are worthy of the vitality that wants to express itself through you. Now, since we are adults in this practice, in this community, we are responsible for this vitality, how we care for it, how we protect or preserve it, how we strengthen and express it. And one of the great tools in supporting this vitality is self-care, self-nurturance through yoga practice. So appreciate yourself for arriving here and bring your palms together at your heart. And then you may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands and open your eyes. So sometimes I like to talk about the sedimentary layers that we're actually moving through to get back down to that most innate, inherent truth of our worthiness, our inherent worthiness, not the misperception of an inherent truth that we are actually shame itself. So we go down through these sedimentary layers, and some of those are emotions that we didn't even know were there. We didn't even realize we had been storing certain emotions. And sometimes coming down through these sedimentary layers, we can kind of chart the familiarity of it if we've gone away from ourselves, i.e. self-abandonment, enough times into the cycles of food or self-harm, and we've returned enough times, we kind of have a familiar sense of the topsoil, the first few layers of coming back home. For me, when I was coming back home after a period of an escalation or a binge or a downward spiral, whatever it was that I was doing, when I was coming back home, the first few layers were things like apprehension. What emotions would I have to feel? What had I been like abating, oppressing, suppressing? What was I going to have to feel that I wouldn't know how to or I wouldn't want to? So often my first layer was apprehension. And then coming down a little ways, there would be this feeling of like relief, like I was actually connecting back to the me that is worthy of being me, the me that is actually likable and intelligent and capable. And then I could go down a little further and I would touch this kind of sadness, like, yeah, and I just spent these days or weeks or months of, abusing myself, harming myself, berating myself. And so the layers that we might go through, those first few could be familiar, because then what can happen is we don't know how to go deeper to really trust that inner worthiness. We may feel relief after yoga practice for an hour or two or a couple of days, but we might find that the overwhelming urge to go back to the spiral with food or self-hatred or self-criticism is bigger. It's more reflexive. It takes over. And so when we come to a yoga practice now, and we're going to go through these sedimentary layers to that deeper discovery, let's along the way make a specific effort for the body memory of knowing that this is true, that you are worthy of this vitality and courage and authenticity. Let's make a body memory of that being true. So a place we're going to start is actually with the foam roller, because sometimes people have been away from their yoga practice if they've been off in the escalations or the downward spirals, and it's hard to know where to get started, and you can feel like your body is not that easy to come into. So we're going to use the foam roller to get the kind of initial layer of, let's say, residue or dust off of the mirror, as they say in meditation. One of the ways that meditation is defined is that we're cleaning the dust off of the mirror so we can see more clearly. So please take a foam roller and place it on your mat so it goes horizontally on your mat. A couple things to know. If you have long hair, I'm going to ask you to hold it up so you won't get it stuck under the roller. If you're wearing a hooded sweatshirt, hold the hood of the sweatshirt because it could also go under the roller. And some of us are wearing baggy clothes like I am. It's helpful to tuck that in so that it's not going to end up under the roller. Okay, so then lie on your roller so your shoulder blades go on the center of the roller. And I'm going to hold my hair because it's just long enough that I could get it stuck under the roller. So you can clasp your hands behind your head, bring your elbows in towards each other. So your elbows are kind of framing your face so that the shoulder blades are wider apart. Pick up your hips and then begin to just roll a little bit between your shoulder blades. Bottom of the shoulder blades, middle and top of the shoulder blades. And as you're rolling, allow yourself to breathe into the sensations. In other words, don't hold your breath, either by habit or by force. And then you might find a place in the upper back that is what I like to call juicy, might be a little bit tighter or more sensational. And you can do some smaller pulsations on that spot. Almost like when you use a rolling pin to roll out pie dough, and sometimes there's a little spot that needs more attention. And then you can make some long rolls again. And then let's pause, touch your hips down, and open the elbows out. And see if you can comfortably rest your head back in your hands and curve gently over the shape of the roller. Relax your face and your eyes and see if your breath might be able to come down into the lower abdomen and your pelvis. And then as you find the breath there, now pick up your head and your elbows and reach forward and rise up to sitting. Okay, so that's a beginning on the roller. Now there's another way to begin that's a pretty common activity with foam rolling, and it's also going to build some core strength. It's going to move some energy, some circulation. It could give you a sense of heat or warmth. And sometimes we say we have to kind of heat the body to get the residue to move out, kind of like when you melt butter. It's easier to move it around. So when we heat the body, that is one of the things yoga calls that tapas, which means heat or purification or transformation. So with your roller, and again, I have just a small roller because it's my travel size roller, but you can use a whole foam roller. If you have baggy clothes on, tuck them in on the front side so they're not going to go under the roller. Place your thighs on the roller and come over onto your elbows. Interlace your fingers so your base is stable, and then roll. We roll from the top of the thighs to the top of the knees. And as you're rolling, now I'm going to ask you to stay in a downward facing position, but take your left hand on the floor and keep your right arm where it is and roll to the outside edge of your right thigh. So as you're rolling, now you're on a place that might be quite a bit more painful. This tends to be pretty sensational. So a couple things to make it more easy. One is step the left foot forward. So you've got your body weight supported by your foot, your hand, and your elbow. Another way to make this easier is to put your foam roller on a blanket or a more padded surface. And also to get a white or blue foam roller, not a black foam roller. These are the most firm of the foam rollers. Okay, let's come back to center and roll on the top of your thighs. And then we're going to go to the left leg. So if you'll come to the center, place your right palm on the floor, roll to your outer left thigh. And as you're rolling again, you can choose to step the right foot forward, or you can stack the legs if that's something that you can breathe into in terms of those sensations. Okay, and then come back to center and notice that you might have gotten like a little bit warmer Your circulation is moving around. Let's put the foam roller on the pubic bone and the lower abdomen. You're going to rock back. That means that as you come from here where the elbows are bent and you rock back, you're going to be stretching the arms out in front. And go ahead and lower your head to the floor. And let your body take a deep breath in. And then walk your hands to a place beneath your elbows and press up to kneeling. So that position we were just doing also gives a little bit of traction for your lower back. And it might seem kind of strange to do it that way, but when you had your pelvis on top of the roller, that little arch in the lower back is a way of giving some traction to the lumbar spine. Let's set this aside. And just notice how you're feeling. Like, does it seem like it gets some energy moving, some circulation moving? Do you feel like, okay, I could move my body, particularly if you came to class feeling lethargic or apathetic? Is there like a little bit of effervescence that might be coming to you? Another practice that we do, if you've been what I called away from home in the escalations or the downward spirals, and you're coming back into the body, another practice we do is called tapotment. You make a fist with each hand like this. Please come up to standing. We're going to start at the periphery, which is the feet and the ankles. And you're basically going to be tapping on the sides of the shins and the back of the calves. Let's come down like this. And as you're doing the tapping, go from the ankles up to the shin and back down. Let it be rhythmic. You can come a little bit towards the front of the shin bone. And then go around to the back of the calves. And then take the feet a little bit wider apart and go to the inside of the calves. Okay, rise up to standing and take notice. It's just the first part of your legs, the lower legs. What does that feel like? Remind yourself that this memory of kind of waking up your vitality right now, you are worthy of this innate vitality. And since we are adults, we're the ones that can help to steward this for ourselves. Okay, let's come now to the outer thighs. Bend your knees and take the fists up and down the outer thighs. The back of the thighs. Front of the thighs. And then the inner thighs where you can. And now the outer hips. And I like to move my hips and my fists easier. And then a little bit on the sacrum, right across the sacrum and the lower back. And then up to standing, let the arms drop. And notice you might be feeling different sensations like your body waking up. It's possible that you feel like yawning. Possible that you feel a little bit nauseous. You might feel a little bit lightheaded. But all of that is your body processing the experience. And it will come back to homeostasis. Now let's take the left hand, make a fist, and do the right forearm. For those of us who might have had a lot of computer time, or small device time. And so you're typing, for example, your forearms actually need a lot more care than you might realize. And so something like this can be helpful for the tension of the muscles that we type with. Let's take it to the upper arm. And then the bicep, so the front of the arm like this. And then we're going to do the back of the arm. Let's do this. Bend your elbow, take it up towards the ceiling, and come into the tricep and also into the armpit. So you have the lymph system there. And if you take the action from the elbow down towards the lymph system, you're helping to move the lymph in the right direction. Then take your right arm, hold it up, and shake it. So you're asking the circulation to move through the body, and then also with your arm up, we're going to keep it up for a few moments, let it get still. And I'd like you to squeeze your hand into a fist. Inhale. Exhale, open your fingers wide. Inhale, squeeze your hand into a fist. And exhale, open your fingers wide. One more time, inhale, squeeze your hand into a fist. And then exhale, float your right arm down. And notice how the circulation is going to go from your heart down through your fingers. While also you can trust that the lymph was coming down the arm to the lymph system and is going to then move through your body to be released, which is another really helpful thing to know about resolving the residue of stress and stress hormone and food habits, all the things that make that residue that your body actually needs to cleanse. Having stored or backed up hormones in the body is one of the indicators for a health problem. So put your attention and gratitude on your lymph system. Let's do the other side. So make a fist with your right hand. And focus on the forearm, front and back. Relax your opposite hand as much as you can. So it's actually experiencing the rhythmic pressure of the tapotement. Then come to the upper arm. Just waking it up all the way up to the bicep. So include that. And then bring your arm up so the elbow points up towards the ceiling, and use your fist from the elbow down to the armpit. Okay, and with that, you are encouraging the lymph system to move. So let's now take the left arm up and shake it. I sometimes say, imagine you got a slug stuck to your hand and you're shaking that off. And it's a stubborn slug, so shake it vigorously. And then keeping the arm up, I want you to inhale and squeeze your hand into a fist. Exhale, spread the fingers open. Inhale, squeeze. Exhale, spread. One more time, inhale, squeeze. And then float your left arm out to the side, open the fingers, and let your arm come down to relax. I've had laryngitis, which is why I'm drinking that tea while teaching, so I can keep my voice coming through. Now, as you relax, see if you might notice this residue and circulation moving through you. Remind yourself that you are worthy of the vitality that wants to express itself through you. Now take a little stance like a horse stance. Turn the knees and toes out. And we're going to do some rapid breathing with the arms. So this is another way to get that cleansing system going. And then what we're doing right now are kind of the things that you can do if you feel like you've been away from your body and you're trying to come back in and it's a little bit awkward and a little bit scary. And so these things can kind of slough off the surface layers of apprehension. And then we'll come down and go into the body in a little slower and more, you might think of it as yoga poses way. So right here, this is kind of like Qigong and yoga combined. Bend your knees, make your hands into fists as they go back. It's going to be a brisk inhale. Coming forward, it's a brisk exhale. And you'll switch the hands as you come forward, like this. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let your arms swing now until they get still. And then let's inhale, raise both arms. And exhale, come down to Uttanasana with a wide stance. Uttanasana means intense west side stretch. The west side is the back side of the body. As you come down, allow your mind, your breath, and your body to deeply relax together. And welcome yourself back home into your body. Whether you've been away for a couple hours, a couple days, a few months, or years, welcome yourself back home to that deep inner place of knowing you are worthy of this self-care and the vitality that wants to live itself, express itself through you. And then let's shift your hands to your hips and please rise up to standing. And then we're going to come down to the floor. And I'd like you to have 2 blocks when you come down to the floor. Let's put the blocks close by. You can reach them with one or both hands. And please lie on your back. Take the arms out into a T shape. Let's do palms face up. And close your eyes. And feel the backs of your arms, the back of your head, the soles of your feet, making a kind of footprint in the ground beneath you. And just becoming mindfully present to that is a way to recognize that your body is right here, right now, worthy of this self-care and self-nurturance. Please cross your right ankle over your left knee. And initially, I'm going to have you press your right knee open. So keeping your hips level, you can press the right knee open, and you can do that with your hand if your arm is long enough or it suits you to do it that way. Or you could add a block. If you're going to add a block, it goes at the very top of the thigh, not at the knee. So it goes in here, and then you press against the block to help open your hip joint. We don't push from the knee because the femur is a single bone. And if you push at the knee, it does move the head of the femur in the socket in a way that can sometimes be not so helpful. So you put the pressure near the joint, closer to the hip joint, which is the top of your thigh. You breathe into your right hip. Let the breath come all the way down into your pelvis. Now let's put this block aside, and keeping your legs in this figure 4 position, tip your left knee and therefore your right foot down to your left and stand on the other block. And as you come down, I'd like you to, if you can reach it, you take your left hand to hold your right ankle, and then again, press the right knee open, this time using the muscles of your hip versus using any kind of force from your hand or your block. Now, when you're pressing your knee away, it's like you're increasing the distance from your right knee to your right hip. So let's continue increasing that up into the right arm. Stretch your right arm overhead. And imagine that you're breathing along this whole line from your knee to your hip to your rib cage to your fingers. And then let's exhale, roll back up to center. Touch your right foot down to the floor, please. Cross your left ankle over your right knee. Let's make the ankle strong so it's an ankle that you could hike on. It's not like a ballerina ankle like that. So make it strong. Press your left knee open. You can take the block if you like and press it against the top of your left thigh. So what we're looking for here is the space that you can make inside the left hip joint. And is it possible that your breath also comes down to inhabit your body, to bring you back into your pelvis? Okay, and then release the left block. So you open up your hip a little bit. Now we've got the block on the right. You can put it flat or medium, and some of you are going to want to put both blocks there, actually. So we're going to keep the figure 4 pose and come down. If possible, hold your left ankle with your right hand, and then press your left knee away from your torso. And let's open the left arm. So you're kind of unzipping the side of the body here. If part of your downward spiral means that you become less active or more sedentary, and if that includes more sitting or sleeping, for example, sometimes the IT band, which you're stretching right now, and the TFL and the outer hips and the other hip flexors, they just get really short because we're not asking the body to go from flexion to extension enough. And so this is an invitation to stretch some of the muscles that might be a part of that pattern of when you become more sedentary or apathetic than you would want to be. Let's breathe in. And then exhale and return to center. Now touch your left foot back to the floor. The other thing that you've been influencing here is the lymph system in the groin. So let's take both legs out straight and just notice circulation going down, and kind of as circulation goes down, the lymph system is also opening up here, and it's going to take the necessary garbage, recycling, and yard debris, the elements, and bring that through your lymph system to exit from the kidneys to the bladder and beyond. So that's a really important thing to know about. You're not just stretching your muscles in yoga practice, you're also moving these systems of delivery. Circulation goes to the feet, and the systems of cleansing comes back through the lymph system and then exits through your body. Please bend both knees again. And now clasp your hands behind your right hamstring. And let's snug the right knee into the chest, please. With your inhale, straighten your right leg, whatever amount you can do. With your exhale, hug your right knee into your chest. Now keep it close to your chest, even as you inhale to straighten your right leg. The thigh is not moving away from your chest. And then exhale and bend. The reason that I don't want you to move your thigh away from your chest is that you might end up
with a misunderstanding of how flexible your hamstrings are or aren't. Or you might also pull your shoulders away from the floor when you do that. And I'd like you to both be honest with yourself about your hamstrings, which doesn't make you less valid as a yoga student if you have tight hamstrings. But I also want you to keep the shoulders back on the floor. Let's do this one more time. Breathe in, reach up through your right heel. And then exhale, and let's take the leg up to vertical on its own and make ankle circles. You are again addressing the lymph system right now. Just like the fists we had with the hands overhead, you are addressing your lymph system right now. And then let's slowly lower the right leg down to the floor. So using some support from the right low belly. And yes, those hip flexors actually also lower your leg down straight. And when it comes to the ground, let your right leg totally relax. Okay, let's do the other side. So bend your right knee, place that foot on the floor. It's just for extra stability. Clasp your hands behind your left knee. Hug your knee in and inhale to go up with your heel. Exhale, squeeze your thigh to your chest. Inhale, raise. Exhale. Remind yourself that you are worthy of this kind of care. You're taking care of your body, and anytime you invest in your body intelligence, you give it a chance to work better for you, more harmoniously with you. And each time that we make an investment in doing this, but we're also relieving some of the burden or the residue on the body, that is like a double benefit, right? Because we're both encouraging that vitality and we're releasing some of the burden on our vitality. Let's do this one more time. Breathe in, reach through your left heel. And then let's take the left leg up to vertical and make some ankle circles. You know, sometimes if you're just feeling really lethargic and terrible, and maybe you're kind of stuck in bed because of the way things have been going, you could just do this practice that we're doing on the floor here. You could do it under the covers. I know you'd have to push up your sheets and blankets with your foot right now, but it might be a kind of a way to get some things moving. Let's take the left leg now down slowly. Use your left low belly and your hip flexors. And then let the left leg rest on the floor. And notice the circulation returning down to your left foot. And imagine the lymph system pulling the lymph into the groin, and then it's going to move it through the lymph into your kidneys, and then in a while it'll go to the bladder, and then you'll go pee. Bend your left knee. Let's put one block between the two knees, please. Open the arms in a T shape, and then bring both legs down to your right side. Now, if you are not flexible enough for your knees to come down stacked like this, and for the left arm to be open to the other side, if you don't have that flexibility, know that that's very, very common, and you can work on it. So in the meantime, you could put a blanket or a bolster or the other block like this for your shins. And then place your right hand on your left knee and twist your upper body to your left. So one of the key things here is that you are trying to stack your knees. And that's because I want you to lengthen from your left lower back and outer hip to your left knee. And then the twist is going to be prioritizing your mid and upper spine, your thoracic spine. So allow the breath to come down into your lower abdomen as smoothly and kindly as you can. And then with an exhale, we're going to raise the knees back up to center. So hug the block with your knees, lift both knees up. If you were using a block there or a blanket or a bolster, then put it on the other side and come down to your left. As your knees come down to the left, twist your upper body to your right. Go ahead and place your left hand on your right knee. And let the breath come down into the pelvis and your lower belly to the extent possible, which does mean releasing the habit of holding tension in the abdomen. And that might be unusual for you. So do it gently. You don't have to use a jackhammer. We're just making an invitation to come down with the breath into the lower belly. And then you're going to squeeze the block with the knees, tone the low belly muscles, and inhale to come back up to center. And touch your feet down to the floor. Let's one more time take the legs out and notice how the circulation and the lymph are going to be moving. Okay, and then please bend both knees. Roll to your side. Come up to table pose. So what we'll do now is kind of invert a part of your lymph system, that is the torso, arms, and shoulders. And in downward facing dog pose, this is also a time where your body can breathe more naturally into the diaphragm, or with the diaphragm, I should say. So place your hands to their shoulder distance apart, and then curl your toes under. Raise your hips and reach your sitting bones high away from your hands. Press back with the tops of your thighs. Root down with your heels. It is okay if your heels don't reach the floor. Most importantly, I want you to be able to lengthen from your hands to your hips. So if that means bending your knees to get the spine to lengthen, then please go ahead and do that. Allow the weight of your head to relax while you strengthen your arms and your upper body. It is always okay to take a short break, of course. You can touch the knees down and then return to dog pose at any time. And then let's come forward, shoulders over your wrists, touch your knees down, reach your hips backwards to child's pose. We'll take a block for the head. Relax your arms. And of course, if child's pose is not comfortable for your knees, then you avoid child's pose and you do something like you can lie on your back and bring your knees towards your chest. Allow the breath into your pelvis and your lower abdomen. And then walk your hands back towards your knees. And if you're on your back with your knees to your chest, go ahead and roll to your side. And for everyone, come up to a sitting position that you feel like you can do. So for me, like I'm very comfortable kneeling right now. You could kneel on the block. You could kneel on the block this way. You could also sit cross-legged. And I'm going to ask you to feel into your body this really deep permission to connect to your inherent worthiness. And it might not seem believable. Some days it's going to feel harder than others because if the shame's been very strong and that's been very repetitive, it seems very convincing. But what is more deeply true is this inherent worthiness. Let's see if you can contact that like you're going down through the sedimentary layers.
And now to give yourself a chance for integration from this practice, what we're going to do is take the one blanket that you started with, and mine was already pre-folded, so let me show you how I got there. If you take a blanket about like this size, you fold it in half, long side to long side, and do that twice. Right, then you're going to need one block nearby. And let's also take the foam roller. That's going to be for your knees. So in this position, you don't sit on the blanket, you sit in front of the blanket. You don't sit directly on it, please. The blanket is to support your lower back. So we put the foam roller under the knees. Lie back so that your blanket starts at the lumbar spine, at the top of the sacrum, at the bottom of the lumbar spine. Then take this one block. It's going to be on the flat setting, and place it under your blanket, under your head. Roll your shoulders open. Let's take the arms out to the side. If you're comfortable with it, you can do palms face up. If you prefer, you can do palms face down. And then close your eyes. And bring your awareness into your hands and feet. With a simple inhale, squeeze your hands and your feet into fists. And then exhale, relax them all. Do that again. Inhale to squeeze. Exhale to release. One more time. Inhale to squeeze. And exhale to release. Invite your mind to also release, so that right here in the present moment, you're practicing resting. We're practicing Shavasana, a pose of integration. Deeply relax your forehead and the space between your eyebrows. Relax out over to your temples and the corners of your eyes. And relax the eyes themselves. And begin relaxing your cheeks. And from the bridge of your nose, relax over your cheeks down to your ears. Relax under the nose at the upper lip. In fact, you could run your tongue over the top of the teeth and invite the upper lip to relax. Release the hinge of your jaw. And allow your tongue to relax at the bottom of your mouth. And as you're able to, you can soften your throat, the muscles of your neck, around to the base of your skull. And then relaxing across the top of your shoulder blades. Imagine out to the edge of the shoulders, a deep kind of relaxed heaviness, releasing the habit of holding stress or tension at the base of the neck or the top of the shoulders. Allow your arms to get more deeply relaxed. Imagine that your elbows and the backs of your knuckles, they relax a little more into the floor. And come down into the heart and invite there to be a quality of relaxation there. And bring that invitation down into the diaphragm, solar plexus. Imagine a deep relaxation for all the organs in your abdomen. And relax deeply in your hips and your pelvis. And let's imagine that going down both legs, past your knees, your shins, all the way to include your legs, your feet, and toes. And for the last few moments of resting, remind yourself again of this really deep, inherent worthiness. And if it doesn't seem so believable to you right now, you can borrow my confidence in you and your inherent worthiness. And you can slightly wiggle your fingers and your toes. Please bend one knee at a time. And you can remove the roller. Roll to your side and come up to sit. The final practice in any yoga practice is a few minutes of meditation. And so as you come up to sit, please make a seat that's going to be comfortable for you. My rug sheds. This actually isn't cat hair. This was from the rug. Right, so when you come up to your seat, make it a comfortable upright seat for yourself. Rest your hands in your lap. And do your best to sit quietly without so much interest in your thoughts. Even if they're there, picture them like birds in the sky, and your attention is on the sky. As you rest your mind on that which is quiet and momentarily disregard the thoughts, remind yourself once more that there is a place in you inherently worthy of this vitality and peace and equanimity. And raise your hands to your heart. Thank you very much for sharing this practice time together. Namaste. And if you're watching this practice on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to the channel. It's helpful to like the videos that are useful to you, so that gives me feedback about what's working. It's also wonderful if you leave comments or questions below the video. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, everyone.